Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. I'm Petey RAVE, and here with me is my team, my crew, my gang, my squad, my quorum. We've got David.
And I'm hovering like a fly, waiting for the windshield on the freeway.
We've got Drew. right
and scene.
Yes, and we've got Brett.
It's ding 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 da ding ding, not ding 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 da ding ding.
You forgot.
You forgot much. Exactly. Yes. I don't remember how exactly Mr. Ice it described that, but yes.
That
is distinguishable from Queen.
Yes, very distinguishable. All right. Yes, we're here with another album to discuss. We're here to do the dang thing, and I brought an album. I brought an album out of curiosity and out of inspiration. So I've been following a band from New York that was connected to the band from New York that Alex Navarro of Giant Bomb joined. But we're not talking about that band. We're talking about them. We're talking about the band that I discussed when we did a Cree Summers band. Oh my God, what's the name? Subject to Change.
Yes.
It's like names escape me there, but we talked about the band that inspired me with their post, and I just said let's bring their album. We're talking about a band, like I said last week, that describes themselves as Bad Brains meets Foo Fighters in a black woman's hair salon for a cup of tea. A collective from New York City by the name of 1865.
Petey, you want to go through this again?
No.
This was the 1975. It was much different record.
I said we weren't going to talk about them.
Yes, no. We're talking about the 1865 and their album "Don't Tread on We," or I should say, "Don't Tread on We," because there's an exclamation mark at the end of it. Let's talk about expectations to this album. I'll start with Drew. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I didn't have much because the first time I had heard the name of this band was when you said it. But hearing Bad Brains and Foo Fighters, I was expecting some early 90s, mid 90s sound to it, tonality, but with an energy and possibly an anger, given the artwork and name of the band. There was some good clues there that I was going to get maybe some politics and a little bit of anger and vitriol. But that's pretty much all I had in mind.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I had no clue. I even did a little attempt of it. I'll just do a quick Google search and read what kind of, I didn't even have much success on the surface level getting all like a whole lot of information on what I was getting aside from what you said of the, Bad Brains meets Foo Fighter. Yeah, that is about all I came in with, but man, yeah. Also, I kind of made some assumptions based on the album that it was going to. I did not know that it was going to be so theatric, but I was assuming that what they were bringing up.
Yes,
there's a lot of stuff about this album that, when I looked it up was quite shocking. Yes.
David, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I was expecting something that wouldn't exactly be subtle. Not something that would be drenched in clever wordplay or interesting, intricate music compositions. This was going to be a band that loudly screams what it has to say and make sure that it is as attention grabbing as possible, because that's just kind of what happens here. There is a message here on this album. This band has a vision. They have a direction that they're going in, and I'm going to talk about that later, but it is a very direct sound that invokes the 90s and invokes 90s alt rock radio in very many ways, but with some differences.
Yes.
They describe themselves as the way they describe themselves, so I'm not entirely sure that's good or bad, because it sounds like they're doing something extremely deliberate. And a lot of this album, a lot of this is extremely deliberate and on purpose, and I would say beating you over the head with its message.
Yes. Well,
let's get into it.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So, this album is very, very in your face, and it does and it's so musically as well. It is very 90s rock, 90s alternative, early 90s, like college radio, mixing in with the grunge, mixing in with a little bit of the punk, but mixing in the grunge and the alternative rock. It has a very cool energy to it. It has a very cool attitude to it. It's even in the vocal styling, it evokes singing and talk singing and of that era. It definitely is centered around speaking to stories and messages. It is very obviously, the name, the band, like it is very obviously invokes the connecting to 70s, is a slavery era histrionics and things like that, but it does so in a very
it talks about America after the fall of the Confederacy.
Yes.
And what it looked like during that time.
Directly after.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're going. If you, for the lack of a better term, put that in your mind's eye, we're starting there. That's the starting point. You'll have a lot of concept albums that want to put you in a particular place or a particular time. This album puts you in America right after the fall of the Confederacy in 1865.
And it does so with very like specific sound they're going for with the guitar work, with the pacing, the even like the percussion, like the singing kind of follows that as well. I think it's pretty fantastic singing, and there's like a lot of that like alternative rock era like vocals that work really well, and you get a little bit of the crunchy guitars, but you also get a bit of some moments of jangle, I think, in a way, but plenty of distortion. Yeah, let's bring it to you guys. Maybe speak a little bit better on it musically. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Fucking insane. Like, so one, as a band, they're young, right? This is their first album. It came out in 2019. It is their only album. What's wrong with my ringer here?
Yeah. Formed in 2017.
Right. That said, this feels like it was plucked from 90s punk rock in a lot of ways. Like that 90s alt rock, punk rock sort of feel to it. Like your Bad Brains, your Sonic Youths and such definitely like were something that was ringing in my head. And not only the musicality and the tone, but also the energy and the sort of snarl and vitriol, I guess, you could say. The music, I don't feel there's anything huge I can point out here. this is not the album where you're going to sort of to think about the minutia of key changes and time signatures. There's no fancy production technique on this that you're going to hear. It's snarling, angry punk rock. All of that said, I am now going to say the words that don't make sense with all of that. You brought a concept album, Petey, that did all of those things. All of those things I just said. Also, it's a concept album about these characters right after the fall of the Confederacy and the end of slavery. Like, okay. I think that's awesome. And like, I'm hoping they explore more stories like that. Because there's more stories to tell. They are, I don't know if we have said this, they are a, what's the term we want to use? Afro-Punk, I believe I saw thrown around when talking about them. Fair to say their skin color being very black. But that perspective and this story around that and the stories that could be told in that, especially with like telling historic stories and historic times of stuff like this happening throughout it, I think doing a couple albums of that could be really cool from a band. Do like a Coheed thing where there's like a 4-album arc and it's maybe like a couple of different points, because I think that's a really cool way to look at it. Sometimes the best way to learn about your present is to look backwards. And that vitriol and that anger and that energy, I think is really, really cool to hear.
Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
I mean, musically, it's lyrics coming from the first, like, it's theatrical. It's theatrically written. It is lyrics coming from the first person, telling a story from them. It's like, it's got acts and scenes and like, and stuff. And it definitely it draws from a lot of different kinds of music. And, I guess I'm going to spend probably most of the time describing what they sound like, because it's easier than me to make mouth noises or than making mouth noises and stuff. But like, it's not to like be reductive or diminish it, because they kind of do something with what they draw from, but they're definitely drawing from some classic grooves and stuff. At times you're getting the very hardcore early 2000s feel. Sometimes you're getting like the late 90s Epitaph Records feel. I got a couple of points. It's that punk rock band that exists in the South, kind of like where they hang out with Greasers, with a little more rockabilly feel. And sometimes there's a straight up Bad Religion like key change. There's a lot of that going on. When I get down to like songs in particular, yeah, you said there was like some college rock, some very 90s feel in some of it. There's also a straight up SoCal female vocal up singy track. There's a lot of bases covered. There's sometimes like where the drums are double bass. Sometimes it's I'm not gonna play the drums with my mouth, but it's that thing that you heard NoFX do and Pennywise do and Blink-182 do.
Yeah.
It's the
Blink-182 doing it because NoFX.
Yeah, I mean it's that sound. It's like there's a drum that there's the reason that they do it. But they
Tom bass drums connection thing.
Yeah, and there's also other things like there's bits of songs that are different pieces. There are a lot of bridges that are completely different than the songs themselves. And like I can't wait to break some of those down, because man, there are parts that are like a Butthole Surfers album in here.
Oh man,
and then
God damn, yeah, you're right.
There's a part that's like a Presidents of the United States, and there's a part that's like an A-side rock opera track by a certain Canadian band that I want to talk about.
Yes. Yes. We look forward to that.
Tragically Hip?
Yeah. It's Triumph.
David, how would you describe this album musically?
Sorry.
I would describe this album musically as something that I found to be very challenging. But I guess that's challenging on purpose. Yeah, the 90s rock feel with splashes of alternative and punk. And I heard a lot of suicidal tendencies all over this too. I heard a lot of suicidal tendencies. And I guess that's fine if you're into that sort of thing. But I'm not an
Americana.
Yeah.
I'm not an Afro-Punk. I'm not, and I never have been. So, okay.
It's better than being an Afro-Punk poser. Like, call it how it is, Deej.
I'm going to go ahead and say that because my musical proclivities are more on the metal side, this was definitely a punk rock album in many, many ways. And there's a message here that's worth listening to. And if you enjoy those types of things that all of the guys have been talking about before, then you might enjoy it. This probably would have fit in very well on your alternative, quote unquote, new rock station in, say, 1996. Probably would have fit in very well. I think that it's a very strange album in a lot of ways because it's really hard to find out where there's a place for it. Because I think that I don't know how many people would be willing to get the message over all of this. But if you are, then it's for you.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Let's drill down. Obviously, we usually would skip the intro, but it's worth noting the intro is literally just a bit of dialogue among two, I guess, if you look at the concept,
we get skits.
Slaves. Yeah, we get skits with a couple of what are at least presented to seem like slaves talking about the band and their music, and they're excited about the music, and we get like little lines about the masters stealing the music and selling it back to them. It's like it's just like it's on the nose, but it's still a message worth saying. Like the commodification of people's music is still a subject worth approaching. But as we get to the first proper track, we get to Peggy, and we get some like talking in an alternative song that just starts with like talking. Not since King Missile. And it works. It works because then it transitions well into the singing. It's very, very like it sets the tone for the sounds, the musicality that you're gonna expect on this album. It puts you back to where this album wants to transport you to. Into both places, one way musically and another time thematically, but does well, and it has a very kind of like intense personality to it. And then Buckshot gets very like big rock a little bit, very anthemic. And if the name of the album, the name of the artist and the name of the album don't give you a clue, and the first like song in the intro, the fact that this song ends with the singer loudly proclaiming "fuck picking cotton,"
are you getting it yet?
Kind of hits you over the head with it, but I don't mind. It
You don't
kind of
mind,
sets
Petey.
the tone. And then like it follows up with a song like "Beholden," which even has a once again kind of brings up the tempo again, a little bit more a faster tempo, but then kind of breaks down and ends the song in a more sludgy way. Or even songs like Buttermilk would add a little bit more, like, I guess I'm not an expert on identifying jangle, but it sounded like jangle to me. I think, but in a gritty way, which is nice, or even something like The Drifter, which again bring back the high energy punk rock feel to things. Yeah, let's go to you guys for your picks. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Your shoe-in of the week. Give me your picks. Who's the lock for this week?
Lead pipe lock.
Well, I think
Tot.
I think tomorrow, my team might be looking for the best possible left on the board.
And Drew dates the podcast. Take a drink.
Yeah.
I hope it's a corner. But Peggy, the vitriol and the anger comes early. The inspiration comes early. When I said, like, I hear some Sonic Youth, this is the song I thought of. Beholden. Something about Beholden, like, makes me feel like if they put out a brand new Tony Hawk game tomorrow, and this song is not on the soundtrack, something went wrong.
Also dating the album.
Yes.
No. The future, any future Tony Hawk, we need money. Activision, Record Breakers is going to curate your list.
Is Skate 4 coming out soon?
Yeah. Yes. Hashtag.
And
Skater XL. There you go.
And one song I wanted to bring up just for the visual. If you don't know what John Brown looks like, look him up and then imagine him holding a gun. And that is a brilliant visual. I think it's great. The story in it is also great. But the visual itself, I think, is something striking to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Okay, well now it's going to be me describing things as things. So Peggy, this is that very similar to a Southern College alt rock band type thing from the mid '90s. Like I said, butthole surfery, but kind of Toadies like in a way. But like there's a mid song shift into Cygnus X1, like we're flying a spaceship into a black hole, and like it even it has this little break in it, like right after it gets a little spacey, where it's a la 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 la, very Presidents of the United States, which like those are very very different things to have mixed in one song, and it kind of worked. Runaway Bride, that is some very like Southern California up singy SoCal female vocals with the harmonies. And the like ska without horns, kind of punk rock, and like the Drifter. So at like the turn of the millennium, there was like this almost punk rock, kind of hard rock sound. A lot of bands with "the" in front of a single syllable name. That were kind of like if AC/DC were from like Knoxville. It's that kind of thing, but it's kind of lo-fi, kind of gritty. But like they have a bridge, and that bridge is like, straight out of like a Pennywise song. Like it's like a little shift, and there's like little choices that were very deliberate. Like everything on this album is done for a reason. It's almost as if it's like there was a whole screenplay written around it. It's very directed. So when they hit all of these marks,
it's very conscious.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and they're picking these things not just because they're like, they work. These are little classic licks, and they're cliche for a reason, but they do put a spin on it. But yeah, those are the songs that really stuck with me. But yeah, they do a lot. There's a lot of different things that you could like. That's just what I recognize from my experience as someone who absorbed quite a bit of the punk rock genre for a major chunk of my life. But like, there's probably other things that I'm not familiar with that they're drawing from, that they're putting together, but somehow they're doing it in like 3 different pieces from 3 different, way different styles of music in the same track. And it's different. Never had one of these before.
Yes. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Beholden. That was the first track on the album that felt like a song that was written and arranged and put together, and not just a poetry jam over kind of a thrown together jam session. Also, Right Now, the song Right Now, after a couple of listens, I felt like the chorus was almost earwormy. And I feel like the hidden track, by the time I got to the end of this album, I realized that as someone who most of the things he likes musically are the polar opposite of this in many, many ways, I got to the end of the album on my first listen, and I realized there wasn't really anything that really stuck. That it was just kind of a lot of noise over sing talking, not talk singing, sing talking. There's a difference. Look it up. And there weren't really any riffs that stuck with me. The drumming all had that same hit my sticks 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of just about every track, and it all just kind of ran together. And that's how I felt when I got to the end of this, where it just, I tried a few listens of just about every track, and Beholden was really the only one.
Let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I'll say it this way. Usually I am one to sort of harp on overthinking and overproduction in punk rock and doing too much. Because in my mind, punk has always been not just get it out, just do it. You have something to say, just go and do it. Like Brett said, there's a lot of thought behind this. It's almost like there's an entire a movie behind this album that we haven't seen.
Perhaps an opera.
Yes.
No.
It's one of those things where it's like where the guy who formed it is a musician / filmmaker and was also a journalist for an editorial journalist for various hip hop and music magazines, and so it's like almost like a storyteller created this band.
Weird. And usually I'm kind of against that. I'm kind of wary of it. But like I said, this was to the point where I'm like, okay, what's the next story? What's the next point in history this band wants to put this lens on? Because I'm here to look in the mirror. I'm here to see it. I'm here to I want to see that because I think it was a really interesting take. I don't think it's doing necessarily anything radically new as far as sound goes. If the bands that we have mentioned thus far, your Sonic Youths and your Bad Brains and such, are not something, your Pennywise,
Butthole Surfers.
Your Butthole Surfers.
If Butthole Surfers don't bring you through the
Suicidal
door.
Tendencies, maybe?
Yeah.
Suicidal Tendencies.
If those are bands that you don't enjoy a lot, probably not going to be for you. But if it is something that you enjoy, I love the Bad Brains. Maybe go check it out. Give them a spin. If you're into that,
it's like
flavor
30 minutes, isn't it? Like it's not a huge investment. In
No,
time.
it isn't.
No, it's a nice tight little 30-minute album.
one of
Yeah.
those times where this review might be longer.
Yeah,
than the actual
absolutely.
Yeah. Brett, how would you conclude on this album as a whole?
I mean, I think that of genres where you're kind of leaning on the punk rock feel and energy, this certainly, is a better use of the genre than writing songs about dating a daughter of a pharmacist so you get drugs. So like I'm okay with this as the current stewards of the punk rock music. As an old hat, I kind of enjoy that it has branched out to become an ingredient that you put into things, as opposed to just being the same old people singing the same style of music for 3 decades. So that's really cool. I think that like there is room for this in the world. This is not really exactly what I come to music for, and it's so like it covers such a wide thing. It is kind of an opera. It is a theme album in ways that are different, and I don't know how I feel about it completely yet, but they certainly, I feel like, got what they wanted out of it in the end, because it definitely gets its message across. You definitely know coming out of it whether or not it's like it left me with a lot of questions, but like I don't know, it was fresh to me, even though it had so much that was borrowed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. David, how would you conclude on this album?
I can honestly say that this album further confirmed that I'm not an Afro-punk. I'm an Afro metalhead. And a lot of this just felt very hard to digest for me. I understand that this is meant to be an artistic statement, that it is meant to be abrasive and challenging. I understand all of that, but art has to be something. If you're going to have a message, it should be a message that shouldn't be hard to swallow. Like I brought on the Steven Wilson album, Future Bites. That was an album that made an artistic statement, but it wasn't so purposefully abrasive and hard to digest like this album. I'll give them credit for being tight. It didn't sound like it was all over the place. It sounded like they were playing together and playing well. It didn't sound like a mess. But truthfully, the message of this album and the stories it was trying to tell were buried under a lot of sonically displeasing noise to my ears. And I'm sorry, guys, I just didn't dig it at all. I'm sorry, I just didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understandable. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's as has been said. We cited artists and cited styles, and if those styles appeal to you big time, this is going to be something that could fit in your repertoire, fit in your catalog really well. And if those styles put you off, this might not change your mind. This doesn't want to change your mind. This doesn't care about changing your mind about those styles. I didn't mind it. I think I've listened to so much early to mid 90s grunge and alternative and like punk and things like that it was perfectly fine in my wheelhouse. I was enjoying the hell out of it. I was enjoying the different styles and kind of where it went. The skits, I don't always there are times where I skip the skits, or at least I skip the intro, just because like I heard it and it's just a bit of dialogue that I can get past to the music, but it does add to the overall milieu, the overall and like themes of the album, and I think it does a thing deliberately and pointedly, and I think it does it well, and I had a good time. I look forward to like getting more from the 1865, more music, more concepts, more albums, more ideas. I think you definitely
If
see.
there is a metal band that does the exact same thing as the 1865, please bring them to me.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. So with that, this is really done well. It was fun to listen to. It was well made, and I look forward to more from them. You can definitely see the influence of the filmmaker in this, the filmmaker journalist in this, and where that stems from. Sasha Jenkins is the one who formed the band alongside Chuck Treese and Honey Child Coleman, and amongst other friends of theirs that have contributed to the album. It's done well, and I think y'all should at least give it a shot. See if you like it. See if it appeals to you. It's only 30 minutes. It's not as long as this episode. Like, it'll be on the playlist, so I think it's worth checking it out. And if you like it, hit them up on their Bandcamp and buy it digitally to own, maybe. Do that thing. But at least I think it's worth checking out. It won't hurt you. I absolutely was delighted by it. Its sound and its style. Yeah. Those are our thoughts on the 1865's Don't Tread on We. Now we get to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, the haiku reviews with the 575. We sum it all up in poetic form. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno.
Let's get down to business.
Yeah. Drew, what is your haiku?
Hard-hitting music with an even harder message, waiting for the next.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what is your haiku?
With a constant theme, variety of sung styles, told in first person.
Mm-hmm. David, what is your haiku?
Dour and joyless. But I guess that's the point. Still can't recommend.
Mm-hmm. My haiku. NYC black punks mix in some 90s grunge rock and righteous anger. Mm-hmm. So those are our thoughts on the 1865's Don't Tread on We. That you can find them on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. You can also find them on Bandcamp. I will link to the Bandcamp link on the show notes on the website on recordbreakerspodcast.com or rebelly.net. On that Spotify playlist would be next week's record, and I believe next week's record is provided by David. David, what have you got for us next week?
The album I've got for the Record Breakers podcast next week came to my attention courtesy of the one and only Tom Morello, because he posted a video of the guitarist of this band and said, and this is from Tom Morello, this is the first guitarist that he had seen in a long time that really perked up his attention. And that's good enough for me. So when I checked out a video from this guitar player, it scared me. It was something that was genuinely uncanny and unlike anything I'd heard being done with guitar with a metal feel to it. So, of course, when I felt like it was scary and odd and strange and like nothing else I'd ever heard before,
We're
I
listening to
decided-
some Chet Atkins. No, sorry.
Close.
Oh,
I decided that it was time to dive in. And we're going to be talking about music project Fuego and their 2020 album Buried, Berried, Alive.
Yes. I look forward to that, but that'll be next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet.
the open image and new tab.
Yes.
Throw in chat.
Yes. You can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HIBBARD, HIBBITTYBBARD. Drew is at X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. You can find us on Twitch. Please follow us there. We stream 4 times a week. We do Dungeons and Dragons with Through the Tomes on Tuesdays. We do Record Breakers on Wednesdays. Of course, as you're right here, we do Space Trucking on Thursdays. We play Starbound. At least for now, it's a fantastic game. And I do my Let's Play series on Fridays. Right now, I'm doing Danganronpa. So look forward to that visual novel fun times. And then we'll see what happens after I finish that game. But keep an eye out. Just follow, like, share. Find us everywhere you find podcasts. Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, all of the different places. Like, share, subscribe, punch the bells, slap the walrus, spank the monkey,
Wax the weasel,
tickle the nebula, recrystallize the dilithium, do all the
Petey.
things. Until
Petey,
next
are you
time.
all right?
I live to pop you, Drew. David, I'm Drew. If I can pop you guys individually. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.